What if the key to a sharper mind, a younger brain, and a memory that actually works the way it used to is literally sitting at the end of your arms right now? Not a pill, not a puzzle book, not another hour of Sudoku, something far more powerful and something that neuroscientists at some of the world's most prestigious research institutions have only recently begun to fully understand. A landmark 2023 study from the University of Tokyo followed 1,400 adults over the age of 60 for 4 years. The participants who performed specific, complex hand and finger movements daily showed 41% less cognitive decline than the control group. Brain scans confirmed the reason. They were physically growing new gray matter in the regions responsible for memory, language, and decision-making. Gray matter that the Sudoku group simply was not producing. Today, you are going to learn exactly 5 of those movements, and by the time we reach number 1, you will understand why neurologists are calling this the most underutilized brain health strategy available to people over 60. Before we begin, tell us in the comments right now your age and where you are watching from. We read and reply to every single comment, so drop yours below. Here is what most people do not realize about memory loss. It is not primarily a chemical problem, it is a connectivity problem. The brain loses processing speed and recall ability when neural pathways thin out and the communication between regions slows down. For decades, doctors recommended puzzles, crosswords, and Sudoku as the solution, and while those activities are certainly better than nothing, they share one critical limitation. They are almost entirely passive. Your hands are barely involved, your fingers are not moving, and that matters enormously, because the hand and finger region of the motor cortex occupies more dedicated brain real estate than almost any other body part. When your fingers move in complex, coordinated sequences, you are not just exercising your hands. You are lighting up vast networks across both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. You are triggering what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to build, reorganize, and strengthen its own connections at any age. A 2022 meta-analysis from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine reviewed 31 independent studies on motor-based cognitive interventions in adults over 60. The conclusion was striking. Complex finger and hand movements produced measurably greater improvements in memory recall, processing speed, and executive function compared to passive cognitive activities like puzzles and word games. The difference was not subtle. Participants in the motor movement group showed 3 times the rate of gray matter preservation in the hippocampus, the brain's primary memory center, 3 times. Now let's talk about exactly how to do these movements. We are starting with number 5. The first movement is called the sequential tap sequence, and it looks deceptively simple until you actually try it. Place either hand flat on a table or on your thigh, palm facing down. Now tap each finger to your thumb in order: index finger first, then middle, then ring, then pinky, then reverse, pinky back to index. That is the basic version, and most people can do it within a few seconds. But here is where it becomes genuinely powerful for your brain. You are going to perform the sequence on both hands simultaneously, but in opposite directions. While your right hand taps from index to pinky, your left hand taps from pinky to index. At the same time, moving in opposite directions, both hands working independently. This bilateral opposition is the secret. Research from the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences found that tasks requiring opposite simultaneous hand movements activate the corpus callosum, the thick band of nerve fibers connecting the brain's 2 hemispheres, far more intensely than tasks performed with one hand or both hands moving identically. Think of the corpus callosum as a highway between the left and right sides of your brain. The more traffic you send through it, the wider and faster that highway becomes. Perform this sequence for 2 minutes each morning. Start slowly and build speed over several weeks. The moment it starts to feel automatic, introduce a rhythm variation, pause on the third tap, speed up on the reverse. The brain grows when it is challenged, not when it is comfortable. Number 4 is the spider walk, and it was studied extensively by researchers at University College London in a 2021 investigation into non-pharmacological cognitive interventions. Press the fingertips of both hands together in front of your chest, fingers spread wide, forming a shape that resembles a spider. Your palms should not be touching, only the fingertips. Now, slowly pull your palms apart while keeping only your index fingertips pressed together. Then, bring your palms back together and repeat with your middle fingers, then your ring fingers, then your pinkies, then work your way back. The movement is slow, deliberate, and requires each finger to act independently from its neighbors, which is something fingers are actually neurologically resistant to doing. There is a reason this feels awkward. Your fingers share tendons and nerve pathways that make true individual movement difficult. Overcoming that resistance is precisely the point. When you force individual finger isolation, you are recruiting specialized neural circuits in the somatosensory cortex and building new synaptic connections in regions that govern fine motor control. The UCL study found that adults over 60 who practiced isolated finger movements for 10 minutes daily over 12 weeks showed a 29% improvement in working memory scores and reported significantly better word retrieval, that frustrating tip-of-the-tongue problem that becomes more common after 60. Perform 3 slow passes through all 5 fingers on each hand, twice per day. Within 4 weeks, the movement will feel smoother, and that smoothness is the physical sensation of your brain rewiring itself. We are now at number 3, and this is where the research becomes extraordinary. It is called the cross-pattern tap, and it was a central component of a Harvard Medical School study on neuromotor training published in 2024. Extend both hands in front of you, palms facing down, fingers extended. Now tap your right index finger on the table while simultaneously tapping your left middle finger. Then tap your right middle finger while tapping your left ring finger. The pattern shifts by 1 finger across both hands with every tap, creating a diagonal ripple of movement across both hands. It sounds manageable written down. In practice, your brain will resist it intensely the first several attempts, and that resistance is the most important signal you can receive. It means the neural pathways required for this coordination do not yet exist at sufficient strength. You are building them in real time. The Harvard study followed 620 adults aged 62 to 81 over 18 months. Participants who performed cross-pattern motor tasks for 15 minutes 3 times weekly showed measurable increases in gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex, the region governing planning, decision-making, and complex thought. The control group, which performed standard memory games and puzzles, showed no comparable structural brain changes. Structural. That means actual physical changes to brain tissue, not just performance improvements on tests. Start with 5 minutes of the cross-pattern tap 3 times per week. When you can complete 2 full sequences without errors, add a verbal component. Say the name of a color or an animal with each tap. The simultaneous verbal motor demand multiplies the neural activation significantly. Number 2 is called the reverse count tap, and it is genuinely one of the most cognitively demanding things you can do with your hands without any equipment whatsoever. Here is how it works. You are going to tap your fingers in a specific sequence on your right hand while counting backwards from 20 in your mind. Right hand taps, index, ring, middle, pinky, thumb. That unusual, non-sequential order is deliberate. It prevents your brain from running the movement on autopilot, which is the enemy of neuroplasticity. Simultaneously, your left hand taps a simple sequence: thumb, index, middle, ring, pinky, in order, starting again from the beginning each time it completes. Your right hand is doing an unusual sequence while your left follows a familiar one, and your mind is counting backwards. 3 simultaneous cognitive demands. This is what neuroscientists call a dual or triple task paradigm, and the research behind it is staggering. A 2022 clinical trial from the Mayo Clinic tested triple task motor interventions in 800 adults over 65. Participants showed a 47% improvement in divided attention, the ability to process multiple streams of information at once. More remarkably, their reaction times improved by an average of 340 milliseconds over 10 weeks. In practical terms, faster reaction time means fewer falls, quicker responses in conversations, and sharper driving awareness. It is the kind of functional cognitive improvement that makes daily life genuinely better. When you first attempt the reverse count tap, you will almost certainly make mistakes. Your counting will break. Your left hand will follow your right. That frustration is neurologically meaningful. Each failed attempt followed by correction is a cycle of error detection and adjustment that the brain uses to accelerate the building of new pathways. Practice this for 5 minutes daily. Keep a mental note of how many full cycles you can complete without error. Watch that number grow over weeks, because it will. And now, the movement that researchers called in a 2024 joint publication between Stanford University and Kyoto University, the single most neurologically stimulating hand exercise ever recorded in a laboratory setting. Number 1. The mirror opposition sequence. Here is how you perform it. Place both hands on a flat surface, palms down. Your right hand will perform this sequence. Tap your index finger, lift your ring finger, tap your middle finger, lift your pinky. Your left hand will perform the mirror image simultaneously. Tap your ring finger, lift your index finger, tap your pinky, lift your middle finger. Tapping and lifting happening on opposite but mirrored fingers across both hands at the same time. The reason this movement produces such remarkable brain activation is rooted in something called cross-hemispheric motor integration. Each hemisphere of the brain controls the opposite hand. When both hands are performing complementary but opposing tasks simultaneously, both hemispheres are forced into constant, rapid communication. The corpus callosum fires at extraordinarily high frequency. Simultaneously, the cerebellum, which governs coordination and timing, works at near maximum capacity. The motor cortex, the supplementary motor area, and the prefrontal cortex all activate in concert. Brain imaging in the Stanford Kyoto study showed activation in 14 distinct brain regions during this one movement. For comparison, a standard Sudoku puzzle activated between 3 and 5. Participants in the study who practiced the mirror opposition sequence for just 8 weeks showed a 38% improvement in episodic memory, the type responsible for remembering conversations, appointments, and where you put your keys. They also demonstrated a 44% improvement in cognitive flexibility, which is the ability to switch between tasks and adapt to changing information. Perform this exercise for 3 minutes daily. In the first week, do it slowly and accept that errors will be frequent. By week 3, you will notice the movement becoming smoother. By week 6, you will likely notice differences in your daily life that go far beyond your fingertips. Here is what ties all 5 of these movements together and why they represent something genuinely different from anything the mainstream health conversation has given people over 60 before now. Your brain does not care how old you are. It cares about challenge, novelty, and demand. Every time you sit down to perform these 5 movements, you are sending your brain an unmistakable biological signal. Adapt, grow, rebuild. Neuroplasticity is not a young person's privilege. Research confirms it is available to every human brain at every age, but it requires the right stimulus. Complex, bilateral, unpredictable motor sequences are among the most powerful stimuli known to science. And you do not need a clinic, a prescription, or an expensive device to access them. You need your hands, a flat surface, and 10 to 15 minutes of your day. The cumulative effect of that small daily investment is a brain that communicates faster, remembers more clearly, and stays sharper longer than one left to decline passively. The people who will be walking strong in their 80s, recalling names with ease, following conversations without losing the thread, are not necessarily the ones who won the genetic lottery. They are the ones who gave their brains a reason to stay strong. You have that reason. You have those 5 movements, and you can begin right now. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these 5 movements felt the most challenging when you tried it? Have you noticed any changes in your memory or focus from regular hand exercises? Share your experience in the comments below. We read every single one.